Tony Robbins wasn't supposed to be successful. He wasn't born rich, he had no powerful connections, his childhood was filled with struggle, an unstable home, no clear future, and nights wondering if there would be food on the table. By all odds, he should have stayed stuck. But he didn't. Instead, he became one of the most influential minds in personal growth, coaching presidents, world-class athletes, and millions of everyday people looking for a breakthrough. Not because he got lucky, but because he mastered the art of transformation, first in himself, then in others. Success isn't about where you start. It's about what you choose to focus on, the hunger you bring, and the mindset you build. Here are 10 unshakable rules Tony Robbins lives by, rules that if you apply, will change everything. Need motivation?
Watch the top 10 with Believe Nation.
And if you make it all the way to the end of the video, leave a hashtag Believe in the comments below so I can celebrate with you in a future video. Believe. Okay, let's kick it off with rule number 1. Focus on the right things.
I think it's important to realize wherever focus goes, energy flows. It's corny, but it's true, right? In fact, maybe an easier way of saying it is we don't experience life. None of us do. We experience the life we focus on. So in any moment, what's wrong is always available. So is what's right. So it's not about being positive. It's about being intelligent, right? You know, when you're in a totally negative state and the world's going to end and there are people like believing that in the next 12 years, the entire environment's going to collapse and they won't have a child. You got to look at the impact of what you're believing. And you got to look at and say, where's my focus going? I can always be upset about something. I can always find something to be joyous or at least grateful for, which leads to joy. And I think it's having that, learning to discipline your disappointments, not allow them to grow and to move on and to use whatever life is giving you.
Rule number 2 is be hungry.
When I look at people's lives and I say, what makes people successful? I love, wickedly smart people. I love intelligence. But you and I both know there are a lot of very smart people that can't fight their way out of a paper bag, right? What I found is, in my own experience, is the number one ingredient is hunger. If somebody's got a hunger that doesn't go away, not a hunger to lose some weight for the summer, I'm talking about hunger to be more, to do more, to create more, to become something, to give something that matters. That kind of hunger that doesn't go away. That's what you see in I'm sure you know Richard Branson. He's a good friend, Richard is 74 years old and he has the same hunger as he did when he was 16 starting Virgin in a crypt. You know what I mean? That's there. Anybody who has that component that's alive in them is going to succeed. And hunger, though, usually comes from not having things go so well.
Rule number 3 is strengthen your mind.
The first key, if you're not where you want to be, is you got to feed and strengthen your mind. In other words, you're basically, it's garbage in, garbage out. We all know that, right? But Jim Rohn was my original teacher, and he used to have this simple practice. He used to say, Tony, every day you got to stand guard at the door of your mind. He asked me a question, I remember early on, I was 17 years old, and he said, because I was talking about some of the challenges I was having, and I wasn't getting any support and all this bullshit, all my wimpy little stories. And he was really kind. He just said, well, let me ask you a question. He said, if I had a cup of coffee, if you have a cup of coffee here, and he goes, your worst enemy puts sugar in your coffee, what's going to happen? And I said, you're going to have sweet coffee. He goes, what if your best friend or your parent or your lover by accident drops one drop of strychnine in your coffee, what's going to happen? So you'd be dead. He goes, that's right. Life is both sugar and strychnine, so you better watch your coffee. Stand guard at the door of your mind. And the way he used to say that is every day, take 30 minutes of your day and read. Not the shit that comes to you today, not the clickbait, where you pick up a book and you read something that has philosophy or psychology or skill, where you are immersing yourself for 30 minutes in improving who you are. He said, because if you do that every single day, it'll accumulate over the decades until you'll be at a point where you won't even believe all that you've experienced and lived.
Rule number 4 is build your self-esteem.
How can people who are always very hard on themselves learn to build up their self-esteem a little bit more?
I don't know if self-esteem is the answer. I don't think it's bad to be hard on yourself, as long as you also celebrate when the victories happen. But, so many people will tell you, I have poor self-esteem because when I was a kid, people said this to me and that to me. And it's convenient that we remember those things and not the positive things that also occur, obviously. But I think it's more important is to realize that self-esteem is earned. It's only earned by you with yourself. You're not going to get self-esteem because everybody praises you. Someone can tell you your whole life that you're brilliant, you're a genius, you're beautiful, you're handsome, and you not believe it. Someone can tell you you're a piece of crap and you're never going to become anything. And there's a part of you can say, I'll show you, as many people have, and then they develop drive out of it, right? So it's really self-esteem comes from doing incredibly difficult things where you know you pushed yourself. It's not virtue signaling. It's not telling people about it. It's what you know inside your soul is true. And the more you do things that are incredibly difficult, and especially things that are meaningful, meaning they're not just about yourself, the higher that esteem would be. I think the most important thing for self-esteem is to find something you care about more than yourself. As long as you're in your own head, the nature of the mind is reductionism, right? Good, bad, right, wrong, all those types of things. Of course, life is much more, many different hues than that. And so when you find something you care about, whether it's your kids or whether it's something, your job, your career, whether it's a mission you have, it's something you want to bring to the world, nonprofit, doesn't matter what it is. If you find something you care about more than you won't be thinking about yourself all the time, and all your bullshit self-esteem shit just goes out the window. I mean, it's just, when I hear it, it's just so mamby-pamby BS. You can have crappy self-esteem and achieve a hell of a lot. Now, the real question is, what do you want? And I think if you want an extraordinary life, which my definition of that is life on your terms. Like, what's my idea? It might be different than yours completely. Some people, it's 3 beautiful children, a white picket fence. Some people, it's building a multi-billion-dollar business. Somebody else, it's writing poetry, right? So instead of looking for somebody else, it's like, okay, what do you really want from your life? And aligning yourself with moving forward towards what you really want. And I think if you can do that in a way that also you feel serving others simultaneously, there's a sense of meaning in life that can't be replaced by self-esteem or praise or compliments or being nice to yourself. And I don't think it's bad to be tough on yourself. I'm pretty tough on myself, to be honest with you. But I'm much better at celebrating now. And I also realize being overly tough on yourself usually comes by making comparisons that don't make sense. I remember I just was walking by and I saw, as I was walking here, a picture that reminded me of something, which was years ago. I was in Atlanta, Georgia. I was in my early 20s, 23, 24, 25, and I was doing a seminar. And in those days, there weren't 15, 20,000 people. It was 125 people. I remember because it was the biggest seminar I'd done. I thought it was so exciting. And I give my heart and soul and, going 12, 13 hours a day. And on the third day, the rooms were so small, then I'd go by and look in everybody's eyes. I gave everybody a flower. I mean, it was just, I look back now, it seems silly, but it was really just, I wanted to make that connection. I want to make sure that they had made that shift. I was like so obsessive about making a true transformation happen. And earlier in the day, I got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, the boss, Bruce Springsteen, he was the biggest star in the world in those days. I loved him. And he's 4 blocks from you. He's at, the Atlanta Stadium there where the Hawks play. You just finish early and come over and you got to take it in. It was Christmas time. He said, it's going to be incredible. I said, I'd love to come, but I said, I just can't do that. That's if I finish somehow in time, it all happens. He's still on stage. I'll call you and see what's going on. So I finished the seminar. I don't know how long it was, almost 11 o'clock at night. But, Bruce usually does, especially at Christmas, he's like 3 encores. And so my buddy calls me and says, get your butt over here. He's doing a second encore. I think he might even do 3 if you get here. Get over here, see the end. So I sprinted the 4 or 5 blocks to get in, got in the stadium, couldn't find my buddy, but I got up into some high seats and I'm looking down and it was back when Clarence was still there. And, it was just the drive and the energy was incredible. The crowd was so engaged and he was doing Christmas songs and he ends with, Born to Run, and I'm like, I'm so into it. And about 3/4 way through the song, I got depressed. I'm like, what the hell? And what it was I was like, what I'm doing doesn't matter. This guy's got 15,000 people here. I got 125 for 3 days. I mean, I'm not making any difference at all. And I was like, and I literally we were walking out and people born around, I was pissy inside myself, but I was feeling so great before this, but now I'm making this comparison. And of course, you're never fair. You're comparing to somebody else's life that has a totally different path, a totally different experience. We all develop in different stages and different things. We all want different things. But what was ironic, though, the reason I tell you the story is it was like 4 years later, and there I am in that stadium, and I'm not doing this crappy little 2.5-hour concert, right? I'm doing 12 hours, and the crowd's going
Screw
crazy.
You, Bruce.
And it was humorous. You get to look back and say, you judge yourself too soon. And I can tell you a dozen stories like that with me. So I was so hard on myself. But eventually, you wake up and saying, it's good to be strong with yourself, but beating yourself up just lowers your energy. And when your energy gets lower, you produce less, right? You don't have the same level of joy. You don't have the impact that you want to have, nor do you have the excitement that you really want to have. So I look at it,
I look at it as something that it's worth earning your own self-esteem, but it's really not the secret. The secret is find something else you obsess about more than yourself, and you'll have a level of energy that will compel you over the long term.
Also, to make sure you're actually taking action after watching this video, I've designed a special free worksheet just for this video. The worksheet will highlight our favorite lessons from the video that will inspire you to remember what you learned today and actually apply them. The worksheet will also give you space to write down what your key takeaways are and your specific plan of action to make sure you're getting results. If you want the worksheet designed specifically for this video, absolutely for free, there's a link in the description below. Go click on it and start building the momentum in your life and your business. I'll see you there. Rule number 5 is embrace challenges.
If you look at the history of the world, good times create weak people. They're not bad people. They just have never been challenged. It's like a muscle. You're a bodybuilder. If I built my body, you don't get it by taking something light. You do something unbelievably difficult. And if you're going to do 10 curls and you can barely do 10 curls, you know that 12 is where all the growth is, right? You know? So I had these experiences that challenged me so strongly, and I met the challenge, and it changed my sense of identity about who I was and what I was capable of. And then I couldn't help but spread that. You know, I lost 30 pounds and helped my friends lose 30 pounds, and they started getting girls. And then I got addicted to knowing the answers, like being able to give people the answer to anything, their body, their emotions, their relationships. And so that obsession still continues to this day. And I've been doing this 48 years.
Rule number 6 is let go of the past.
How would you say people should let go of their past more effectively?
If you want freedom, if you value freedom, you can't possibly have it as long as you played the victim role. And even if you were physically victimized, and, you know, my mom, I don't look at it that way. She was physically intense, and you could call it abusive. I prefer not to use that language because that also puts in that place. I never even told anybody about that experience until maybe 15 years ago. I was now in New York, and I was with this group of young African-American and some Hispanic kids, all had single mothers, all from really troubled backgrounds. And I started talking to them about various things. And I'm trying to get across that biography is not destiny. And I was giving them different examples of people. But I could just see him, I could just mind read, look at this big, tall, white guy, and he's wealthy and easy for him, right? So I told them everything, things I never told anybody. And every single one of them was crying their eyes out. I was crying too. But then I got them to see that, like, none of that makes you who you are. None of that controls where you are in your life. I was like, if my mom had been the mother I'd hoped she'd be, I would not be the man I'm proud to be. So, and she did many beautiful things. But, you know, if I was a well-fed kid, would I be providing 30 billion meals for people? Would I work this hard to feed people that I'll never meet and never know and will never say thank you to me? I'm not looking for it. No. I mean, I'd love to believe I do. I'm a good person. You're a good person. But I wouldn't have had that hunger without that. So that's where that belief comes from. That's like, life has been happening for me. I don't know if you can relate to this. My bet is you could. Maybe your viewers or listeners can. It's like, have you ever had something happen in your life that was horrible? I mean, it was painful. You'd never want to go through it again in a million years. You wouldn't want anybody else to go through it that you care about. But after 5 or 10 years, you look back and you say, I never want to go through it again. But now I see the wisdom in it.
I'm glad.
It's like it made me care so much more. It made me so much stronger. It made something in me more.
Rule number 7 is recognize patterns.
If you look at a person's life, most people major in minor things. Jim Rohn, my teacher, used to say that to me all the time, meaning they know about all kinds of things that don't matter. But there's maybe a half dozen things that matter most. There's your body, there's your emotions, there's your relationships, there's your finances, there's your career or your sense of mission or your business. And then there's the spiritual side of life. And so I've always taught on all those areas. But in 2008, when all hell broke loose the first time, I've worked with Paul Tudor Jones, one of the top 10 financial traders for now 26 years. And so I knew a little bit in this area. Most people don't know. I know the details of.
You know a lot, man. Hearing you talk about finance, you are freakishly knowledgeable. I've seen you on stage with people that make a living doing it. And not only do you keep up, in many ways, I think they're listening to you as closely as you're listening to them at this point. How do you learn that stuff that deeply?
Well, I go for total immersion. It's like if you learn language a little bit at a time, 2-3 years from now, you don't speak the language. But if I dumped you into Rome and said, you're not leaving for 8 weeks and there's no teacher, you're going to be speaking Italian before you leave there. So I'm a big believer in total immersion, but I also believe in modeling the best on earth. So in Money Master the Game, fortunately, I have access. So it's like, I'm going to interview 50 of the smartest financial people on earth and everybody who's made it from nothing to multi-billionaire. And they all did it different ways. And I'm good at pattern recognition and I'm good at pattern utilization. In fact, I would say to your audience, you know, in 2040, which sounds like a long way from now, 18 years ago like that, your mind will be blown. Half the jobs we have today, according to Oxford and a variety of other universities, are going to be gone. They're replaced by robotics, by algorithms. You know the game. And so the bottom line is you need to be good at pattern recognition, and that's what gets somebody strong at anything. I mean, you look at, you know, why is Amazon doing so well? He realized one pattern was valued over anything else, convenience. Right? If you look at Tom Brady, a friend of mine, he's got pattern recognition like nobody else at 43 years old. He's able to do things no one dreamed could be done. He's got more Super Bowl rings than any team. So I said, I want to go to the best people on earth and see what do they see that none of us see. What's the pattern? Then you got to learn pattern utilization. It's one thing to see it. It's another thing to use it. And then if you're good after a while, you get to pattern creation. It's like if you learn to play the piano, most people play other people's music. And then there's a point you've learned so much that you're able to create. And I think those three skills are the most important skills. So I look at the areas that matter most and say, who already has that extraordinary pattern recognition utilization? So I go to Ray Dalio, who's, you know, returned more money to investors than anyone alive. You know, he's going to have a different level of understanding than the average person. And because I immerse myself so much, most of these interviews are supposed to be 30 minutes. And the average one was 3.5 hours. And so, but like Ray Dalio is now a dear friend of mine. I can pitch and catch with him because I came so over prepared and because I could, again, not just catch the ball he threw, but pitch it back. And so to me, that's what I did. I did for total immersion. It was a 3.5-year project and then expanded. I wrote, Unshakable after that because I saw what was going to happen in the markets and I wanted people prepared.
Rule number 8 is train your mind.
The most common question I've been asked by the media my entire life that always makes me laugh is, well, don't you have bad days? Don't you have days when you're like frustrated and excited and pissed off and you watch TV and you eat Cheetos and watch pornography? And I said, well, I do some of those things, right? And of course I do, but it's like an athlete. I built muscle over the years so that it's not that I don't have feelings, that I don't get hurt, I don't feel sad, I don't feel tired, I feel all those things, but they're not the dominant force of my life. It's a muscle. The mind is a muscle. Emotion is a muscle. I mean, I think the most powerful muscles are the invisible force muscles. It's your spiritual, emotional muscles. Like courage unused doesn't grow, it shrinks. So I put my ass on the line regularly so that it grows. And when it keeps growing, then pretty soon the stuff that used to make me crazy, it doesn't touch me. It's not that I'm so great. Just I'm well trained. I've trained this mind. I get up every morning in my life. You talk about rebounder, more crazy shit I do is every morning in my life, if I'm near any of my homes, and some places I have cryotherapy, but my homes I have these cold plunges, and they're 56 degrees. And the first thing I do is jump in that cold plunge. So there's not a morning where I want to jump in that. I can't remember mornings like, I can't wait to jump in that thing. But I don't negotiate with myself. I do it for two reasons. One, there's a physical health component. It moves your lymph system, the blood flushes through your whole body. But the main reason I do it, even more than that, is when I go up there, I don't, you know how people negotiate, well, maybe we'll do it tomorrow, I'm going to do this, or let me wait 2 more minutes till I'm ready. There's none of that with me. For decades, I go, I say, we do. I'm not here to discuss this with my mind. There's mind, and then there's soul and spirit. And soul and spirit, my soul knows. And when I say jump, you jump. I'm not here to have a discussion with you.
Rule number 9 is get better in asset allocation.
I met with David Swenson. He took $1 billion, turned it into $24 billion in 2 decades, in 20 years. Just mind-boggling. $1 billion a year, right? Just think about that level of doubling. It's just mind-boggling. And I asked him, I said, what are the dials? What are the only dials we can touch? And he said, Tony, to increase your return, there's only a few things you can do. He said, you can make better selections of stocks. He said, you can have better timing. He said, and you can have better asset allocation. He said, the first two will never happen because the first two cost you money. Got to hire somebody. Everybody's wrong on the timing. He said, asset allocation, which simply means dividing your money into different buckets. Some of those buckets are secure so that even though you think you're going to be a genius, you're going to make money no matter what, that money goes slower, but it'll always be there and it'll give you freedom for the rest of your life. There's a growth bucket, which is also a risk bucket. We forget that. Yeah. Because one of the things Ray Dalio taught me, he said, Tony, everybody invests in what they think they know. If you grew up with real estate, you're not a genius, but you made money in real estate because anybody can when real estate's growing up. You think you're a genius. You think you know stocks. Oh, you're a genius, in 1999, right? You're a genius in 2010 when things started to grow a bit. He said, whatever you invest in,
In your lifetime, that area is going to drop 50 to 70%. There's zero exception. He can show you mathematically and he can show you historically. Wow. So he said you have to diversify even though you don't want to. And you have to divide these monies up. So every one of them taught me different asset allocations. But the one that I think is the most valuable for anybody to really take advantage of is Ray Dalio's, because Ray Dalio's figured out, why is it in 2008, if your stockbroker, your financial planner said, we're going to protect you, we're going to put you half in stocks and half in bonds, why did they both go down? You weren't protected at all. Same thing happened in 2000. And he figured something out. When you think you're in a balanced portfolio, you're not balanced. And the reason is stocks are 3 times more volatile than you'll find in bonds. What does that mean? It means when you think you're 50-50, you're 50-50 with your money, but you're not 50-50 with your risk. You're 95% at risk and 5% on the good side. That's why everybody loses. So he figured a formula, because he said, look, someday I'm going to be gone. Yeah. I want my kids to have the money long term. I want, all the philanthropic things I'm doing to be taken care of. So he spent 15 years studying the markets and figured out, how do I design a portfolio that'll make money every time? Like, if it loses money, it lost in 75 years, it's lost 1.6% when it's lost, but it's been right 85% of the time. Wow. If you went to Vegas and you had a plan that worked for 75 years and made money 85% of the time, and when you lost 1.6%, and when you gained more than 10%. Wow. The biggest loss in 75 years is 3.95%, less than 4. Wow. So why did people not make it in the stock market? Because when you take a 50% hit, they all say stay in. Nobody, the average person never stays in. Sure. If you look at the last 20 years, the average person, the stock market over 20 years, from 1993 to 2013, has averaged 9.2%. Pretty cool compounding. You double your money pretty damn quick doing that. Right. But the average mutual fund investors made 2.5%. Why? Because they freak out, they sell when it goes down, they buy when it's looking good, which is the wrong time to buy it. They don't know what to do. So what Ray Dalio's strategy does, and by the way, he's never shared this strategy ever publicly. And he gives it in here. He gives it in here, which is mind-boggling. Now, cool. I pushed him, I teased him, I cajoled him. In the end, I said, look, you're not taking any more money, help the average guy out. He lays it out. You can do it yourself, or you can have someone else do it for you, but it takes 15 minutes a year and 85% success over 75 years. Wow. And I could take any time period, the last 30 years. He lost money 4 times. One of those was 0.003%, so it's really break even. So, and again, the most you ever lost, less than 4%, average 1.9%. Right. So if you're looking for a plan, I'd put some money there. Then the other money that I would do is I'd take some of that money and I'd look at what are the biggest trends. I have a lot of my money also in senior housing. And the reason is twofold. It's a demographic inevitability. There's this giant wave of baby boomers, and there isn't enough senior housing to take care of them. And I like it. I like to create a quality place for someone to be able to be lived and taken care of and so forth. But there's huge income from it, and there's the growth in the asset itself.
And rule number 10, the last one before a very special bonus clip, is win the inner game.
Most of us have been conditioned not to take a risk. People ask me all the time, what does it take to be happy? And I always tell them it's really simple. One word, progress. Progress equals happiness. If you keep growing, you're going to feel alive. And if you keep growing, you're going to have more to give. And when you're growing and giving is when life is magnificent. It doesn't matter how many statues, Oscars they give you, or Emmys, or how much money you have in the bank. We've all seen people have all those things, and I get the phone call because they're depressed or somebody commits suicide in that area. So it's really an inner game. And I think that's what's missing for us today. Everybody's focusing on the outside world, and hell, there's a lot of things in the outside world you'll never be able to control. You can influence, but you can't control it. This, your mind, your emotions, your body, you have 100% control over what you do with these things, and that's where the game is won. You win the inner game, then you win the outer game. But a lot of people spent their life trying to win the outer game, they won, and they're miserable. So to me, success without fulfillment is the ultimate failure. And so many people are focused on success still, which to me is like, there's nothing wrong with it, but it's like success is getting what you want. Fulfillment is living what you're made for, and it's like fulfillment and success, they're not even the same universe. And there's nothing wrong with going for success, but you really got to figure out what you're made for. And nobody knows in the beginning. So you start where you are and you do what's in front of you, do what's next. And you keep growing until you start to discover, hey, this is my real passion. This is my real hunger and drive. And it can change. People go for 5, 6, 7 years, and then they usually question their business, their career, their body, their relationships. And then one of two things happens. They change direction and feel renewed, or they go, no, I got a great deal here. What the hell's wrong with me? And they recommit and they get stronger. But that's life. And if you don't grow, I don't give a damn how much you got going for you, you're going to be miserable.
Dealing with the loss of someone you care about is probably the most difficult thing of all. I would say maybe as a child, seeing the level of frustration between my parents, I had 4 different fathers, and watching them kind of, accept whatever life gave them it's why a lot of my drive came about, is seeing my fathers be berated by my mother, who I love dearly, and just watching them break down. Like, probably the single most painful event of my life, but also shaped me in such a beautiful way, was when I was 11 years old. We had no money for food, and it was Thanksgiving, which in America is a big holiday feast. Mm-hmm. And so we'd been without food before. We'd have crackers and butter, and we survived, but we weren't going to have a Thanksgiving feast. And there's a knock at the door, and I go to the door, and there's this giant guy there with groceries in each hand, and he had a pot beside him on the ground with an uncooked turkey. And I said, who are you here for? He goes, I'd like to speak to your father. And my mom and dad were yelling at each other, saying things that you can never take back. And I'm trying to make sure my younger brother and sister, they're 5 and 7 years younger, wouldn't hear any of this. And that day changed my life, because I thought it was going to be the most exciting day. Dad, go to the front. What is it? I said, it's for you. You answered. No, it's for you. And I remember they opened the door, and I was just so excited to see my father be happy. Like, we're going to have a feast. This is going to be incredible. And he got angry. And he's like, we don't accept charity. He went to slam the door in the man's face, and the man's foot was there, so it bounced off his foot. He still opened the groceries. And he's like, sir, I'm just the delivery guy. He said, it's not charity. Everybody has a tough time. Someone bought this, and they're sending it to you as a gift. And my father said, we don't take charity. He goes to close the door again. This time the guy's shoulder was there also, so it bounced off again. And then I was standing right there, and there's this moment I'll never forget where this man looked at my father, and he looked at me and he said, sir, don't let your ego make your family suffer. And the veins on my dad's face, on the side of his neck, I'll never forget, they bulged, like his face turned red. I thought I was going to punch him in the face. And then there's this moment, my dad's shoulders dropped. He took the groceries, slammed the door, didn't say thank you, and stormed off. And I always remember thinking, like, how come he's not happy? You talk about pain. It's like, I love my father so much. And there's basically 3 decisions that I think everybody makes in their life, that whether they're aware of it or not, moment to moment. I figured this out afterwards because I was so obsessed with what's wrong, because he eventually left our family. And that was the most painful thing I ever had. So it's like feeling like I failed, I blame myself, like, why couldn't I get through to my father? I was 11 years old. But later on, it helped me understand the 3 decisions are: first, you got to decide what to focus on. Every moment of your life, there's something grabbing your focus, and you don't experience life, you experience the part of life you focus on, right? What's wrong is always available, so is what's right? And there are different kinds of focus. And my dad's focus that day was really on what he hadn't done. And I know that because he kept muttering it. He hadn't taken care of his family. There's no money for Thanksgiving. Somebody had to give us charity. And then the second decision you make about once you focus on something is, what does it mean? Is this the end or the beginning? If you think it's the end of a relationship, you're going to behave different than it's the beginning, right? My dad's meaning was that he was worthless. And so then the third decision is, what do I do? Which, whatever meaning you come up with creates the emotions, which affects what you do. And what he decided to do is leave our family. But for me, it was like, this is amazing. I mean, we haven't having Thanksgiving. This is incredible. We got food. What a concept. And then the meaning, though, is what changed my whole life, which was, wow, strangers care. That completely changed my life. That painful experience, I couldn't deny that somebody who wanted no credit delivered this food to my family. And so what I decided to do is say, someday I'm going to do this for another family. So when I was 17, I had 2 families, and it was a euphoric experience. I went in jeans and a t-shirt. I didn't go like the delivery guy, but I wanted to see the face of the people. And then next year was 4 people, and then it was 8. And my thing was doubling. And I had a little company, and then I got to 1 million people a year, and then I got to 4 million people a year. Then when I was doing Money Master the Game, I'm interviewing these billionaires, Jay, and I'm watching Congress cut food stamps. It's now called the SNAP program, by, I think it was $6 billion. So every family that actually needs food, and my family was one of those back then, they all have to come up with a week's worth of food out of every month. So I was like, I called my team and I said, how many people have I fed in my lifetime? I didn't know that was 42 million meals. I was like, this is pretty cool. And I was like, what if I fed 50 million people, like my entire lifetime in 1 year? And there was like, what if I did 100 million? What if I fed 1 billion people in 10 years? So that was 7 years ago. Wow. We're at 850 million meals, right? Amazing. And I'm going to hit the billion earlier than what I promised and targeted. And then I've got a sustainable approach. But I tell you that because my worst day was my best day. Mm-hmm. the most painful day, the day where I felt like I'd do the least, where I felt impotent, led me to have new understandings, new skills, new capacities, new drives, new hunger. I mean, would I really be feeding 100 million people a year, 100 million meals a year if I was well fed as a child? Probably not. And I'd love to believe I'm such a perfect person, but no, I just know what suffering feels like. So I don't want anybody else to suffer, Yeah. So I think sometimes the suffering experiences of our life, if we don't let them crush us, we let them drive us, they actually become the best day in your life. And taking your worst day and making your best day is a beautiful target for anybody.
For 10 more amazing rules from Mel Robbins, check the video right there next to me. I think you'll love it. Continue to believe, and I'll see you there.
The fastest way to take control of your life is to stop controlling everyone around you. You have no idea how much time and energy and attention you are wasting trying to control other people. You have no idea how much energy